Voters heading to the polls tomorrow in what's been a pretty volatile Pennsylvania U.S. Senate primary. Lieutenant Governor and Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman hospitalized over the weekend after suffering a stroke. He says he's feeling better. Doctors say he will be okay. Let's bring in Niall Stanage, White House columnist for The Hill. Always good to see you, even when we have to talk about things like volatile primary races.
Always a pleasure, Adrienne, and welcome back. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be seen. Okay, Fetterman, obviously the favorite for the Democratic nomination. He says he will continue. He says there will be no slowdown for his campaign. But this is a bit of a shakeup in an already much talked about primary with some very publicly known candidates. Is this him having a stroke expected to impact the race at all, or is this just another bump in the road?
I think it will at least add to Democratic nervousness about this race, Adrienne. John Fetterman is the strong favourite to win tomorrow's primary on the Democratic side over Conor Lamb. Now, of course, everyone, regardless of their political affiliation, is glad that Mr. Fetterman is okay. But if he becomes the nominee, he then faces a very gruelling campaign in a state that is one of the Democrats' best, maybe only chances to win a seat back. That seat is currently held by a retiring Republican, Pat Toomey. So I think there will be a bit of edginess on the Democratic side, just hoping that John Fetterman, if he wins the primary, is fully ready for the rigours of this general election campaign.
Right. Two big shootings this weekend. Obviously, we're talking about it a lot here on Morning in America. It brings the gun control debate into focus once again. We know how voters are separated on this issue based on party lines, but are we seeing more Democrats change their stance on gun control in light of so much violence and the rising crime rates across the country?
I'm not sure that we're really seeing Democrats change their view. If I understand where you're coming from in the question correctly, you're saying, would rising crime rates make people more hostile to gun control? They might want guns for their own protection and so forth. I think that generally is a dynamic that happens. I mean, we see sometimes applications for gun permits go up as crime rises. But what I'm not sure of is that that really brings a Democratic sea change on the more modest or what are called common sense gun reforms. For example, universal background checks have overwhelming support in both parties. There are other things like so-called red flag laws that Democrats continue to be very supportive of, even though Republican voters tend to have a bit more of a mixed opinion on that front.
You read me completely correctly and right and accurately answered there. And I love that you showed where there are some points where Democrats and Republicans are on the same page, because that's always pleasant. But when it comes to the overall midterm season, a lot of talk, of course, has been about inflation. It continues to be the top concern among American voters. President Biden's handling of the economy, facing some tough critique. 68% now of all voters, no matter what party they align with, are disapproving of his handling of the economy. So how are we seeing Democratic candidates deal with this in terms of their campaigning to appeal to voters?
We're seeing a number of Democratic candidates keeping their distance from President Biden. Adrienne, Tim Ryan in Ohio is a good example. That's a state where President Biden's approval ratings are about 20 points to the negative side. Tim Ryan has been notably lukewarm about whether he wants the president to campaign with him. So I think we are seeing Democrats trying to keep their distance from the national party, especially in states like Ohio or to some extent Pennsylvania, where those sort of cultural issues are very important. And the Democratic candidates there are trying to run as somewhat maverick-type figures, I think.
Mavericks. I'll tell you, a cultural issue, I don't know. I spent $6.29 per gallon for regular gasoline when I visited California this weekend. And I was like, well, this is a nice reality check. I like this. Okay.
Well, this is just a good reason to get you back to Chicago and on our screens, Adrienne, if you're paying that much out in California.
$6.29. I think everybody is really thinking, wow, all right, if it goes up to, I'm not going to even say it. I don't even want to say it's going to go up. Niall, thank you so much. We appreciate you being with us as always. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.